He was once just a barefoot boy, dancing on the streets to survive. But now, Kola is about to step into a world he never dreamed of. From the gates of a prestigious academy to the bright lights of the stage, his journey takes him from shadows into the spotlight. This is part 2 of the story that touched millions, the boy who danced his way into a family. And trust me, what happens next will inspire you and stay with you forever. The morning sun glowed softly on the gates of Starlight Academy, one of the most prestigious schools in the city. Its walls were painted cream and gold, the playground filled with children in neatly pressed uniforms and polished shoes. For most students, this was ordinary, but for Kola, it was a miracle waiting to happen. The night before, he had sat in his room staring at the new uniform folded neatly on the chair. His fingers brushed the crisp fabric, but instead of joy, he felt a knot of fear in his stomach. What if I don't fit in? What if they laugh at me? He whispered to himself. Richard Lawson had knocked softly before stepping inside. Seeing the worry in Kola's eyes, he sat down beside him. "Kola," Richard said gently, "I know tomorrow feels like standing on a stage before the world. And yes, there will be whispers. Some will doubt you. But listen to me. You don't have to prove that you belong. You already do. You are a Lawson, not because of the name, but because of the heart you carry." Kola swallowed, his chest tight with emotion. Richard placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Remember this. The same courage you had when you danced in the street to fight hunger. That courage will carry you anywhere. And if ever you feel small, hold your head high. Even kings were once boys no one believed in." Kola's eyes glistened. "You really think I can do it?" Richard's lips curved into a small, steady smile. "I don't just think it, son. I know it. Tomorrow, when you walk through those gates, remember, whatever they say, you are my son. And nothing can take that away." That night, Kola slept with determination burning in his heart. And now, as he stood at the gates of Starlight Academy, Amanda's hand in his, those words echoed in his mind like a shield. He stood beside her, his new sister in spirit, her steps now steady, her laughter bright as a melody. Only months ago, her world had been bound to a wheelchair, but today she walked with freedom and joy, every stride a living testament to resilience and hope. Beside her, Kola's palms were damp with nervous anticipation. His crisp new uniform hung a little loose on his thin frame, his polished shoes pinched with unfamiliar stiffness. The backpack on his shoulders felt at once like a crown of possibility and a weight of expectation. Amanda squeezed his hand. "Don't be scared," she whispered. "I'll be right here." As Kola and Amanda walked through the wide corridors of Starlight Academy, soft whispers followed them like shadows. "Isn't that the boy from the streets? Why would someone like him be here? He doesn't belong here." Each word stung, and Kola felt his ears burn. His shoulders grew heavy, and for a moment he wished he could disappear. The polished tiles beneath his feet seemed harder with every step, the walls taller, the stairs sharper. But then Richard's words came back to him, strong and steady, as if spoken right into his heart. "You are my son. You belong." Kola lifted his head just a little. His steps were still slow, but they no longer wavered. Amanda's small hand in his gave him strength, and together they kept walking forward. In the classroom, the teacher introduced him. "Class, this is Kola Lawson." The surname caught on their tongues. "Lawson? The millionaire's name?" Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Amanda clapped softly and smiled at him. That smile gave him strength. For the first time, Kola sat at a real desk, opened a notebook, and held a pencil that wasn't borrowed. His heart pounded. He was no longer just the barefoot boy from the bridge. He was a student, one of them, or at least he hoped to be. But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning of a new struggle. The days that followed were harder than Kola expected. In class, he answered questions with honesty. But some students mocked his accent. At lunch, some students laughed as they watched Kola eat so fast, almost like he thought the food would disappear. "Street boy in Starlight Academy? No way," one whispered. "He doesn't belong here." Another said, "Just wait until exams. He will fail." A third added, and the others laughed. The words cut deep, but Kola kept his head down and continued eating. He didn't want them to see how much it hurt. Kola clenched his fists under the table, trying to fight back the sting of the whispers and laughter around him. Richard's words echoed in his heart. Even kings were once boys no one believed in. Just then, Amanda walked over and sat down beside him. She placed her tray on the table and gave him a bright, steady smile. "Don't listen to them," she said softly. "You belong here just like everyone else." Her words were simple, but they lifted the weight from his chest. For the first time that day, Kola let out a slow breath. With Amanda beside him, the voices of doubt didn't feel so loud anymore. Still at night, when the mansion was quiet and Amanda was asleep, Kola sometimes sat by his window, tears burning his eyes. The bed beneath him was soft, the roof above safe. But his heart felt heavy. The streets had been cruel, yes, but they had never made him feel invisible the way these whispers did. One night, Richard found him awake, staring into the dark. "What's wrong, son?" he asked gently. Kola hesitated, then whispered, "They don't want me there." Richard's eyes softened. He placed a firm hand on Kola's shoulder. "Listen to me. Greatness never comes without resistance. They laughed at me when I was young too. But today they call me the Golden Touch. Don't let their whispers define you. Let your heart, your spirit, speak louder." Kola swallowed hard, then nodded. His father's words gave him a spark of courage. He promised himself, "One day, I'll make them see me. Not as a street boy, but as someone who belongs." While Kola faced ridicule, Amanda fought her own silent battles. Though she now walked, her steps were slow, unsteady. Some classmates clapped when she entered the playground, but others whispered cruelly behind her back. "Look, she's limping. She might fall again." Amanda pretended not to hear, but every word stung. At times she wanted to hide in her chair again, to retreat into silence. But then she remembered the boy who had made her laugh when no one else could. She remembered Kola shouting in the garden, "When you move, you win." One afternoon during break, Amanda stood before her classmates. Her legs trembled as she tried to walk across the playground. Children watched silently, some smirking, some curious. Step by step she moved, slow, shaky, but determined. Halfway through, she stumbled. Gasps filled the air. Before anyone could laugh, Kola ran to her side. "You can do it!" he called, clapping his hands. "Just one more step." Amanda lifted her head, breathing hard. Slowly she moved forward, one shaky step, then another. By the time she reached the other side of the playground, the whispers were gone. Instead, some children began to clap. Amanda turned to face them. Her cheeks were red, but her eyes were shining. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said softly. Kola grinned wide. In that moment, they weren't just siblings by circumstance. They were warriors, each fighting their own battles, but never fighting alone. The weeks passed quickly, and whispers still followed Kola through the hallways. But then one morning, a brightly colored poster appeared on the school's notice board. "End of term dance competition, sign up now." Excited voices filled the air. Students crowded around, chattering about costumes, music, and routines. Amanda's eyes sparkled the moment she read it. She tugged at Kola's sleeve. "You have to join," she said firmly. Kola froze. His stomach knotted. Dancing in the garden for Amanda was one thing. Dancing for an entire school, teachers, students, parents, was another. The thought terrified him. "Me, in front of everyone?" he whispered. Amanda nodded. "Yes, you. You were born for this." He hesitated, then glanced around. Some students were already pointing and laughing. "A street boy in a dance competition? He'll embarrass himself." He doesn't stand a chance. Cola clenched his fists. He remembered the nights under the bridge when he danced just to fight hunger. He remembered Amanda's laughter, the sound that brought her back to life. Slowly, with trembling hands, he picked up the pen and wrote his name on the list. The whispers grew louder, but Cola only smiled faintly. They don't know what I carry inside me, he thought. This isn't about them. It's about proving that joy can defeat despair. That night, when Amanda told Richard, the man raised an eyebrow. A competition? Yes, Daddy. Amanda beamed. He can win. Richard's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. Then let the world see what I've already seen in him. From that day on, the Lawson Mansion's garden transformed into a rehearsal stage. Every afternoon after school, Cola would practice while Amanda clapped and cheered. He spun like a top, flipped like a street acrobat, and twisted his body into comical shapes that made Amanda laugh until her sides hurt. But this time, Cola wasn't just chasing laughter. He was chasing perfection. Amanda took her role seriously, acting as his coach. Again! She commanded. No, faster. Make your spin bigger. Sometimes Richard watched quietly from the balcony. He never interrupted, but his chest swelled with pride. The boy who once danced for coins at traffic lights was now preparing to stand on a stage where the world could see his gift. Even the housemaids and guards became secret spectators. At first, they peeked from corners. Then they openly clapped when he nailed a new move. Our small master will win it, one whispered with a smile. Cola, though often tired, felt unstoppable. Each practice carried the memory of nights he went to bed hungry. Each laugh from Amanda was fuel for his soul. This time, he thought, I'm not dancing for survival. I'm dancing for a dream. And though he never admitted it aloud, he also carried another secret hope, that if he won, the whispers at school would finally turn into applause. But even as Cola prepared for glory, storm clouds gathered in the mansion. One evening, Richard hosted a dinner with some of his business partners. The men in suits ate from golden plates, sipping expensive wine, while Amanda and Cola practiced in the garden. Laughter drifted in from outside, clashing with the stiff atmosphere inside. One of the men frowned. Richard, forgive me, but that boy, is it wise? He is from the streets. People are talking. They say you've let a beggar live in your mansion. Another chimed in. What if he disgraces you? What if he steals? A reputation like yours is fragile. You've built an empire, Richard. Don't throw it away on a stray. Richard's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. The chatter around the table faded as his jaw tightened. For a moment, the room seemed to wait on his silence. Then, images flashed through his mind. Amanda's laughter echoing in the garden, her unsteady steps slowly turning into strength, the light Cola had brought into her life, when all his fortune could not. With deliberate care, he placed the fork back on the plate. Leaning forward, his eyes steady, he spoke, his voice calm, yet carrying the weight of a man who knew exactly what mattered. You think my reputation is in danger? He glanced toward the garden where Cola was dancing under Amanda's applause. Gentlemen, my daughter is walking again because of him. My house is filled with joy because of him. That is worth more than all your contracts combined. If the world calls that weakness, then let them talk. Silence fell over the table. The men lowered their eyes, unable to argue. Richard leaned back in his chair, his decision made. He would never again measure his life by what the world thought. He had already found the only treasure that mattered. Family, hope, and love. The day of the competition finally arrived. The Starlight Academy auditorium gleamed under bright stage lights. Rows of parents filled the seats, cameras ready, while students whispered excitedly. For most, it was just another school event. For Cola, it was the biggest test of his life. Backstage, his hands trembled. His uniform had been replaced by simple dance clothes. Amanda had helped him pick out a plain white shirt, dark trousers, and polished shoes. He peeked through the curtain. The crowd looked endless. His heart pounded. Amanda spotted him in the corner and hurried over. She took his trembling hands in hers and held them firmly. "Close your eyes," she whispered. "Think of the garden. It's just you dancing and me clapping. Nothing else matters." Kola took a deep breath. Then the announcer's voice thundered. "Next up, Kola Lawson." The whispers began immediately. "That's him, the street boy." "What's he doing here?" "This will be embarrassing." The music started. For a heartbeat, Kola froze under the spotlight. The whispers threatened to drown him. Then he remembered nights under the bridge. How he danced so hunger wouldn't win. He remembered Amanda's laughter, the spark that brought her back to life. His fear melted. His body came alive. He spun like a whirlwind, flipped like a street acrobat, and added playful clownish moves that made the crowd roar with laughter. He clapped, stomped, slid across the stage, then froze in a statue pose before bursting into a wild spin. The audience gasped, then cheered. By the time the music ended, the entire hall was on its feet. The same children who once whispered were now chanting his name. "Kola, Kola, Kola!" And in the front row, Amanda stood with tears in her eyes, clapping harder than anyone. The judges huddled together, whispering and nodding. The hall was buzzing, every student eager for the results. When the head judge stepped forward, silence fell. "And the winner of this year's Starlight Academy dance competition is..." He paused dramatically. "Kola Lawson." The hall erupted. Cheers, claps, and shouts echoed like thunder. Amanda ran forward, nearly tripping in her excitement, and threw her arms around Kola. "I knew you would win," she cried. Kola's chest tightened with joy. His heart felt like it would burst. For the first time, he wasn't a boy dancing for survival. He wasn't a shadow on the street corner. He was a champion, recognized for his gift. Teachers shook his hand. Students who once mocked him now patted his back. Even the principal announced proudly, "A true Lawson indeed." But the victory meant more than trophies or applause. As Kola stood on the stage, holding his award, he looked toward the back of the hall. Richard was there, standing tall, his eyes glistening. Their gazes met, and in that moment, Kola knew. He wasn't just a guest in the Lawson family. He belonged. That night the mansion was alive with celebration. Music played, food was served, and laughter echoed through the halls. Amanda paraded around with Kola's trophy, as if it were her own. Richard, sipping quietly from his glass, whispered to himself, "You were born to shine, boy, and you've just begun." The next morning, newspapers blazed with headlines. From streets to spotlight, Millionaire's adopted son wins dance trophy. Photos of Kola in mid-dance pose filled the front pages. A local TV channel replayed clips of his performance, the crowd's cheers still echoing. For the city, it was a story of hope. For Kola, it was the sweetest victory of his young life. But far away, in a crumbling tenement, a man saw the broadcast. His hands shook as he touched the screen. His eyes, sunken from years of hardship, widened. "Kola," he whispered. "My boy." That evening, as the mansion prepared for dinner, the guards at the gate were startled by a ragged figure demanding entry. His voice cracked with desperation. "Please, let me see him. I'm his father. I've come for my son." The guards exchanged wary glances. The name Lawson was now spoken with respect, and this man before them seemed the opposite of that image. But his eyes held a pleading fire. Reluctantly, they led him to the mansion door. Inside, Kola was laughing with Amanda over dinner when the butler appeared, his face pale. "Sir," he said to Richard, "there's someone at the gate. He claims to be Kola's father." Silence fell. Amanda's fork clattered against her plate. Kola froze, his heart pounding. Memories he thought he had buried, nights of hunger, days of abandonment, came rushing back. Richard's eyes narrowed. "Bring him in." And for the first time in years, Kola stood face to face with the man who had disappeared from his world. The man who had abandoned him when he needed him most, leaving a little boy to dance his pain away in the shadows. The room was thick with silence when the man stepped in. His clothes were ragged, his shoes worn thin. His face carried the deep lines of regret and wasted years. But his eyes locked on Kola, trembling with something between shame and longing. "Kola," he whispered, his voice breaking. "My boy. My son." Kola's body stiffened. For years he had imagined this moment, his father returning, explaining why he left, making everything right. But now that it was here, his chest felt heavy with anger. Richard's eyes hardened as he crossed his arms. "You call yourself his father? Where were you when this boy slept under bridges? Where were you when hunger nearly took his life? Where were you when my daughter's laughter came back because of him?" The man fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I failed him. When his mother died, I broke. I was lost, with no work, no way to care for a baby alone. I ran, and I have carried that shame ever since. But I've seen him now, alive, strong, full of light, and I am begging for another chance." Kola's fists clenched, his heart raced. Memories rushed back, nights begging on the street, shivering in the cold, dancing with an empty stomach. He had been invisible to the world, including the man before him. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Kola, waiting. Richard remained silent, knowing the choice wasn't his to make. The whole mansion seemed to hold its breath. The man sobbed. "Please, son, forgive me. Let me be your father again." Kola's lips parted, his voice trembling. But instead of hope, his words carried a weight years in the making. "You lost that right when you left me." Kola's voice grew steadier as he spoke. "When I was hungry, you weren't there. When I slept on the streets, you weren't there. When I danced alone hoping someone would see me, you weren't there. But when I made Amanda smile, she was there. When I needed a home, Richard was there. When I needed a family, this family was here." His father shook his head, weeping. "I was broken, son. So was I." Kola's voice cracked, his fists trembling. "But I didn't run. I danced. I fought. I survived. And now I'm not alone anymore. I don't need a father who abandoned me. I have a family now." Amanda rose, walking carefully to Kola's side. She took his hand firmly. "And he's my brother. No one can change that." Richard stood, his eyes misty though his face remained strong. He placed a hand on Kola's shoulder, speaking with quiet pride. "This house is yours, son. You don't need to search for love outside these walls. You've given us more than we could ever give you." The man broke down completely, his sobs echoing in the great hall. The guards led him away gently, his cries fading into the night. Kola watched him go, a storm of emotions raging inside. But when he turned back and felt Amanda's hand still in his, and Richard's strong presence beside him, peace finally settled in his chest. For the first time in his life, Kola realized something powerful. Family isn't only by blood. It's by love, by choice, by who stays when the world walks away. Weeks passed, and the mansion once again bloomed with joy. Amanda's steps grew stronger. She no longer feared the playground. Now she joined her classmates with confidence. And every evening the garden became alive with laughter, claps, and Kola's dancing. The newspapers still wrote about him. Street boy turned champion. Millionaire's miracle son. But inside the mansion, none of that mattered. What mattered was the sound of Amanda's laughter and the warmth of a family that had chosen each other. One evening, as the sun set in golden light over Banana Island, Richard stood in the garden, watching quietly. Kola danced across the grass, moving in funny, playful ways. Amanda tried to copy him, but soon she was laughing so hard she almost fell. The air was filled with joy, The kind money could never buy, Richard whispered to himself. I thought I had everything, but I had nothing until I met this boy, and through him, I found my family. Kola, catching his eye, smiled and waved him over. Richard walked forward, and the three of them, father, daughter, and son, not by blood but by love, joined hands. Amanda's voice rang out clear and strong. We're a family now, and nothing can change that. The boy who once danced to survive now danced with destiny. He was no longer invisible. He was loved. He was home. And the mansion that once echoed with silence would forever echo with the richest sound of all. Laughter, love, and the dance of a boy who turned despair into joy. Sometimes the family we are born into fails us, but the family we find, the one built on love, loyalty, and laughter, is the one that saves us. And in the end, true wealth is not in riches, but in the bonds that make us whole. If this story touched you, let us know in the comments and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to Folktales by Olivia for more emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and keep watching.